If you're anything like me, you'll have left school with very little in the way of financial knowledge.
But let me hit you with some knowledge.
I certainly didn't have any expectations of becoming a financial advisor, but even if you did have a few classes on the basics of managing money, by the time you actually get a job, start earning and looking after your own finances, it's probably a distant memory. And being successful is not just a case of earning more money. I mean, it helps, but when you see reports that 26% of people earning over £100,000 a year are still living paycheck to paycheck, clearly there's more to financial success than just getting your earnings up.
We're gonna make a lot of money together.
So here it is. Everyone's got their take, but here are the 6 steps I'm personally following for financial success.
Step 1. The buffer.
Trying to be financially successful without a cash buffer is like walking into a boxing ring with your hands tied behind your back. So step 1 is to save and set aside 1 month's worth of essential expenditure. Typically, you might be talking around the £1,000 mark. We're not talking about a fully funded cash reserve, just the bare essential minimum to give you a financial safety net. The main reason for this is that when things inevitably do arise, you'll be less likely to fix that with high interest debt. I don't believe anybody wants to use payday loans, they just get taken advantage of when they don't have this safety net.
I hate them so much!
So do all that you can to get this together. It might mean selling something or working a few extra hours if necessary, but once you've got that together, set it aside in an easy access savings account. If you can get a decent interest rate, great, but it needs to be accessible. Don't tie this up in a fixed term product or invest it into something where the value can fall. Importantly, if something does arise that uses some or all of this emergency fund, then you go right back to step 1 and make this your main priority before you move on to anything else.
Step 2. The purge.
Please just let us purge.
Credit cards, store cards, buy now, pay later, personal loans, payday loans, even car finance at times. You need to learn to hate this type of debt with a passion.
I hate it here!
Unfortunately, we're encouraged to take on debt from all kinds of angles. And I'm not talking about a mortgage here, and there are some limited circumstances where credit can be a useful tool. But if you're carrying a high interest debt balance, it's time to attack that. And yes, even at step 1 in my plan, you'll be having to make the minimum payments on any debt. But in step 2, you're going to be fighting this with intensity. Bad debt steals your number 1 wealth building tool, your spare income. And if you do need any extra incentive, I like to view the repayments as an investment with a guaranteed return that could be anywhere up to 20-30% if this is typical credit card debt. Really anything with 8% plus, and you'll be better off paying this down than you likely would have been investing or otherwise. If someone's told you that you need a credit card in order to build up your credit score or rack up some air miles, just keep in mind that there are 2 kinds of people. Those that take out a card, can spend, get the benefits, pay it off every month in full and never pay a penny of interest, and the rest of us. We have good intentions when we take it out, but it ends up costing us way more than we anticipated. If you've found yourself carrying a balance on a credit card, you're not a credit card person. So make a start on clearing it today and use one of 2 methods to do so. Either snowball it, start with the smallest debt and feel that psychological win of clearing it and then go on to the next one, or avalanche it, start with the highest interest and pay down from there. Now, the avalanche wins on a maths basis, but as debt is more of a human problem, we tend to see more success with the snowball method, which is why I encourage it. Now, debt spirals are horrible, and there are certain circumstances where you will need to get help. I've personally lived through debt problems, and I know the mental strain it can place on people. So if you're in that position, I've linked to StepChange in the description. They offer free debt advice and support. Please get the help that you need.
Step 3. The reserve.
With bad debt out of the way, you can move forward and start building more than just that emergency fund. Get yourself a proper cash reserve together. And people debate whether this should be 3, 6, 12 months or whatever. But I would start with 3 months essential expenditure as an absolute minimum. The main reason for this is it buys you some time if you're out of work or if your income drops. It can give you the flexibility to change jobs, start a business, or go through more lean periods if you're self-employed. And ultimately, it just buys you time. How long do you want to keep the wolves from the door?
4 of us wolves running around the desert together in Las Vegas.
If you're lucky enough to have multiple sources of income and could pick up work at the drop of a hat, well, 3 months is going to be fine. But if you are the sole breadwinner in your home, or you have a job that's not too secure and you've got kids and a mortgage, well, 6-12 months might be more appropriate.
Step 4. The Golden Goose.
Now, I know I'm a financial advisor and I can already feel you tensing up a little bit, like, is he really about to try and sell me insurance? I'm not, I promise. This is not a sales pitch, and these are just the steps that I'm personally following. I'm relatively young, married with 2 kids, so my biggest value to them right now is my potential future earnings, or at least it would be if I could get the likes on this video up. Incapacity, illness, or death could naturally put a stop to that income, so to help protect myself and the family, I have appropriate cover in place, from income protection, critical illness, and life cover. And if I wanted to top that up, I ran a couple of quick quotes this morning just to get a feel for what that might cost. But again, this is not a sales pitch. Now, if you have no dependents, you might be thinking, well, I can just skip this step, but I would encourage you to at least look at income protection and critical illness cover. Your inability to work through an accident perhaps, or worse, a serious illness, could significantly change your life, and having this cover in place could be the safety net that makes things okay during that time. It is you that is the golden goose right now, so I'm assuming you insure your car and your home. Make sure that you also insure what matters most.
Step 5. The Accumulation.
With that secure financial base all set up and in place, you can now move on to the fun stuff. Step 5 is where we're going to accumulate and build some wealth. Now, if you've been following those steps in order, the only investment you really should have is if you're an employee and you've been automatically enrolled into your workplace pension. And whilst I didn't mention it in the earlier steps, I certainly wouldn't be encouraging anybody to opt out of auto-enrollment. It's free money from your employer, it's part of your remuneration package, and you should be collecting it if you're eligible. But don't just assume that because you're in your workplace pension, that this will be enough to give you financial freedom or a comfortable retirement. The defaults, the minimums for auto-enrollment are normally based on band earnings and only get you to a combined 8% of that band. Now, your employer might be more generous, or you might not be in a workplace pension scheme, full stop. To get you to where you need to be, I would encourage you to save at least 15% of your total earnings towards retirement, and you might have to start smaller and work towards that. But 15% is the goal for step 5. I start with pensions here, and I'm really talking about defined contribution or pot style pensions. But the reason I start with those is because it turbocharges your money and gives you probably the best chance, the best likely return for any money that you're going to spend beyond age 55 based on current rules, probably 57 and upwards if you're a little bit younger. And if you can get to that 15%, that's when I would start to bring the other tax wrappers into play, for example your stocks and shares ISA, or if you're maxing that out, perhaps you just need a general investment account over and above the stocks and shares ISA. Below all of these tax wrappers, hopefully if you're investing for the long term, you'll have a global basket of shares, perhaps it's index based and it's hopefully low cost as well. Nobody knows the future when it comes to what governments will do with tax allowances and taxation on pensions, for example. So I think it would be sensible to have a blend of pensions, ISAs, and perhaps other investments to give you the flexibility when you do get to that point of making withdrawals.
Step 6. The Freedom.
With all of those boxes ticked and with yourself well on the way to becoming financially independent, this is where I would start to look at clearing debts completely. For most people, we'll be talking about overpaying the mortgage here and trying to clear that balance completely. Now, people often ask, shouldn't I overpay the mortgage and get rid of that balance before I look at investing more in pensions or ISAs? Well, assuming you're investing correctly, properly, then the optimal strategy would actually be to invest based on the evidence. But I do appreciate that the more cautious route would be to pay off the mortgage first, and there are some psychological benefits to being debt-free. It does feel good. There's no right answer here, but if you're following my steps, I would invest first and then pay off the mortgage. And in doing so, you will also free up that income to invest more in the future. So there we have it, my 6 steps to financial success. And yes, I'm a financial advisor, so I'm naturally going to encourage you to get your own personalised plan in place, sit down with an independent financial planner that you can trust, and help tailor it to your circumstances. But if you do like doing things on a DIY basis and you've done a little bit of reading, you feel like you're comfortable proceeding on your own course, then I do feel that these 6 financial steps can lead to financial success. And I fully appreciate that there are tons and tons of different versions of 6 steps or 7 steps or however many steps you want to financial success. But these are the ones I'm personally following, the ones I believe in, and I do hope they give you some reassurance that you can do it too. Thank you for watching. My name's Andrew, and if you're new to the channel, tap that subscribe button for plenty more to come in future. I'm giving my thoughts on finances from the perspective of a UK-based chartered financial planner. Hopefully it benefits you on your financial path. If there's anything you would do differently from my 6 steps or any feedback on that, I'd love to hear about it in the comments, and I look forward to hearing from you in the next video.